I was bound to make this video sooner or later, so with the influx of popular Yuri manga receiving anime recently, I thought it'd be appropriate to ask what other holy grails will likely be checked off from the list. What other series will grace us with their animation validation? As you may be aware, 2025 has already seen some pretty big names getting the anime treatment, such as Watanabe, The Moon on a Rainy Night, and A Monster Wants to Eat Me. Even 2024, as dry as it was, still gave us some heavy hitters, like Two Sides of Voice Actor Radio, Whisper Me a Love Song, and the soon-to-be mine f***ing classic gushing over magical girls. At the rate that we're getting Yuri shows, there'll be no such thing as a refractory period anymore. I mean, I may be a Giga Chad, but even I like to snuggle and talk about my feelings now and then. So aside from the quantity of Yuri anime we're getting, the main questions I have are which Yuri manga are due to be animated, and how they would potentially work. So in my divine wisdom, I decided to pull out 10 random Yuri manga out of my ass, and see how likely they are to receive an anime. And just to make it fair, the ones selected have to be licensed and have physical distribution, which means any amateur series that's currently relegated to online viewing only is out of the question. And by the way, this video is merely my opinion. I don't consider myself an expert at anything, let alone an expert on the vast and complex world of anime production. I just read manga and watch anime, which makes me smarter than a flatworm, but dumber than a lungfish. I'm just basing my opinion on my limited knowledge on the industry, which you're more than welcome to agree or disagree with. And finally, I'll keep each section relatively spoiler-free. I mean, I have to talk about them to some extent, but I'll try to keep major details to myself. Alright, let's see how much shit I'm gonna catch from this. Number 10. Don't be an otaku, Shinozaki-san. Time for a blast from the slight past. So the series is about a trendy high school girl named Shinozaki Akina, who is put off by all things otaku cultured, like anime, manga, figurines, and people like you. And being the hip and outgoing individual that she is, no one would expect her to ever get involved in the otaku life, or even associate herself with an otaku. Not in a million years. During her first day of high school, she discovered that everyone had already organized into their cliques, and Akina was the only straggler in her class. So she attempts to befriend the girl sat next to her, Sasamura Kaede, but quickly realizes that she was her mortal enemy, the dreaded otaku. After finishing up in the bathroom, Akina accidentally bumps into her otaku classmate, and as the cliche goes, anime/manga girls who take off their glasses are revealed to be much hotter than they actually are. Akina was shocked by the sudden unmasking, and expressed her disappointment at the fact that such a pretty girl was an otaku. Being partly lonely and partly turned on, Akina decided to exercise the otaku at a Kaede and acquire a friend for her high school debut. But first, she had to learn the ways of the otaku in order to gain her favor. But while masquerading as the bane of her existence, she soon learns that the lure of otaku culture is a lot more tempting than she realized. So the series first started in 2012 and later finished in 2017. It's also one of the earliest Yuri manga I read, which is why I hold it in pretty high regard. However, it is a sad reality that even some classics are not fated for the animation treatment. A Shinozaki anime appearing in the mid to late 2010s would be the most sensible, and providing that it was competently handled, I could really see it becoming a Yuri anime classic to this day. However, we don't live in that timeline. Instead, we're stuck with our shitty reality. And to pile more onto that shit pile, I'm pretty damn sure that a Shinozaki anime is well past the point of unlikely. Like, extremely unlikely. A whopping 8 years after the series finished without a peep of an anime in the works is pretty much a resounding confirmation that it's never gonna happen. The series has been out of the limelight far too long, and while schmucks like you and me will still be giddy to see it become an anime, realistically, I don't think there's an animation company willing to take such a big risk at this point. Honestly, I think Hikawa Shou's VTuber manga has a way better chance of being animated, and I still haven't even read it. It's just that VTubers are super topical right now, and if the kids these days are into it, then that's where the money is, baby. Number 9. School Zone Girls. This quirky Yuri comedy focuses on high schoolers Yokoi Rei and Sagira Kei, inseparable childhood friends who barrel through life on stupid mode, while always finding the time to do random high schooler things. However, they're not the only goofballs in this troupe, as we follow other eccentric girls doing even more random things, such as the insightful Yatsude, the hopeless Matsuri, and the inexplicably energetic Utsugi. So I got a bit of a soft spot for this manga actually, since the comedy is right up my alley. I will say say that it does rely a little too much on loud, obnoxious characters, and though I do enjoy the odd goofy face now and then, it does become pretty indulgent, like a child on a sugar rush. Regardless, it has a lot of personality, and the flirtatious Yuri is gut-busting. But the question is, how well does the series lend itself to an anime adaptation? Well, first I want to mention that School Zone is very similar to some other manga that have received anime, such as Yuri Yuri obviously, Inugami and Nekuyama, and Wasteful Days of High School Girls. The premise itself makes it pretty easy to animate. However, my main concern is the structuring of the show. The manga usually focuses on certain characters in one chapter, then switches to another in the next. And this is on top of each chapter being extremely short and bare bones. Basically, it's one screwball comedy after another. This doesn't particularly make for a traditional anime experience, and the only way I can see this panning out is for them to make each episode a few minutes long, just like Inugami and Nekuyama. Historically, this has never been a formula for quality anime. With such quick-paced jokes and a basic premise, it really seems more suitable to a casual reading experience. Then again, I could be wrong, and they could actually change things up and structure it more like Yuri Yuri. Regardless, I think an anime of any kind is possible for School Zone. It'd be a crying shame if the manga in its current state would be the final thing we see of it. In case you're not aware, the series is on indefinite hiatus, so there's no guarantee if it'll ever be completed. Apparently, the author is burnt out and wants to work on other projects. I mean, with over 5 volumes of constant slapstick comedy, I can't say that I really blame them. Number 8. Asumi-chan is interested in lesbian brothels. Is this what you wanted, you perverts? The subtly named adult Yuri series is about a sweet and innocent college girl named Asumi. And when she was younger, she had a somewhat awkward romantic experience with her older childhood friend Mai. And now, after becoming a full-fledged adult, she looks back on her blissfully unaware youth with cringe, regretting not being able to reciprocate Mai's genuine romantic feelings for her. But many years have passed, and Asumi has no inclination of Mai's whereabouts. But as luck would have it, Asumi's lecherous senpai recognized Mai's younger appearance, and explained that she saw her working at a lesbian brothel, and it wasn't as a receptionist. However, as these brothels didn't reveal the girl's name or information, Asumi had to reserve every worker she could in order to find her beloved childhood friend. So with that, she embarked on the lewdest game of Guess Who known to man. This is a bonkers one. Definitely a series that will go down in Yuri history for its sheer amount of coitus. It's no surprise it attracted the attention of me and many other perverts. The only complaint I have is the utter impractical nature of the premise. Let's look past the possibility that Mai had absolutely zero social media presence, and there being no mutual connections that Asumi could contact in order to get even a sliver of information on Mai. Ignoring all those nearly impossible circumstances, is it really efficient to just pay each and every prostitute until you eventually come across your friend? We know by now that there aren't just a few people to go through given Asumi's number of conquests so far. For all we know, there could be hundreds of girls on that site. The amount of time and money needed would make even a Hollywood producer blush. There's plenty more questions to be had here, but obviously the one you care about most is, does this series have a chance of becoming an anime? Well, we know it's not impossible for an erotic Yuri series to be animated. Examples being Shoujo Sect and A Kiss for the Petals. That's right, I'm a naughty boy. The problem is that there's just barely any of them. I imagine erotic anime or even hentai have more restrictions than your standard anime, like budget and marketing, which is why you often see these types of anime only get like 1 or 2 episodes. And what's trickier is that Asumi is almost entirely pearl-clapping sex scenes. It would 100% be a hentai, which means no selling to Crunchyroll. Personally, I can maybe see it receiving a couple of episodes or something. But as you most likely know, these types of naughty anime are kind of notorious for having poor production value. And honestly seems like they're just marketing for the source material. That's what my friends keep telling me. It's a goddamn shame too. I mean, if interspecies reviewers can get a whole season, then why can't Asumi-chan? They're pretty much the same f***ing thing. Number 7. My Cute Little Kitten. A quaint little manga about 2 roommates, Reina and Yuna, who have been living together since their college days. But one of them has a secret. Reina has been in love with Yuna for many years, and continually struggled finding the confidence to tell her. One day, Reina comes home to find Yuna had picked up an unexpected visitor, a stray kitten seemingly abandoned. Realizing their apartment doesn't allow pets, and seeing how deeply attached Yuna is to their new furry friend, Reina took this opportunity to suggest to Yuna in finding her own place that does have pet accommodations. But for Reina, this is mainly an excuse to allow her to move on from her one-sided love. However, once Reina explained all this, Yuna countered that she would love continuing to live with Reina forever. And at that moment, the goddess of Yuri gave Reina the courage to finally confess her feelings to Yuna. And with that, their relationship grew into something neither of them could have foreseen. A beautiful couple's life with an adorable but somewhat troublesome kitten. Is there any scenario gayer than that? Now I know what you're thinking. How the hell could I choose this over Morinaga's magnum opus Girlfriends? And to put it bluntly, that ship has sailed out to sea, and it sank harder than the Titanic and Ocean Gate combined. There's just no chance of Girlfriends getting an anime at this point. But what I do think stands a good chance is Morinaga's current manga. Slice of life Yuri is still prevalent, but what really makes this series stand out is that the main characters are adults, and not teenage girls.
No way!
I mean, that's anime/manga in a nutshell. But it's high time that we get a Yuri anime with an adult perspective. However, this does not mean that we'll be without compromise. If I'm being realistic, I don't think that we'll see a full season of this manga. Rather, I think they'll most likely go the Kasi-san route and give us an OVA instead. Maybe around feature length. The story does lend itself quite well to a single movie. Come on, you fuckers! Give us at least one goddamn Morinaga milk anime! Number 6. Semelparous. Time to test the limits of anime physics. So the sci-fi action manga is about a girl named Aratsugu Yorino, who is training to become a bastioner. Basically a super powered up soldier able to fight against kaiju, which are weird giant monsters from another dimension, attempting to break through the wall between their worlds and run amok in the human world. After a training session gone wrong, Yorino lost her best friend to a kaiju attack, and was nearly squashed herself when a beautiful bastioner named Kaminoi Yoko saved her life and totally wrecked the attacking kaiju. With a newfound purpose, Yorino partners up with her new sexy senpai and fights against the ongoing kaiju invasion. And along the way, they encounter many shocking and disturbing truths, all that will test the resolve and relationship. So this is an interesting one. What gives me hope for a Semelparous anime is that it's not just constantly filled with sex. Instead, it's buttered up with plenty of action, mystery, and drama, which means it could potentially qualify for streaming services, if they play their cards right. Again, I'm basing this on the handful of other erotic anime that managed to squeak into existence. But the most telling one is of course Valkyrie Drive Mermaid, which shares many similarities to Semelparous. Both have girls with comically oversized fun bags fighting with weapons, and require the characters to get frisky with each other in order to do battle. But Valkyrie has way more gratuitous nudity, and Semelparous actually takes its story a bit more seriously. I've only read a little of the series so far, and don't know how many chapters it has right now, so I'm not sure if there's even enough for a whole season of anime. But I do think it has a good chance of seeing some kind of animation project. It'll just take a damn good studio to animate all those bouncy appendages. Let's get Madhouse on this one, huh? Number 5. Vampeerz. I should have called this Vampeerz, am I right? So the series is about a young girl named Asagiri Ichika, who on the day of her grandmother's funeral, met and fell in love with a beautiful vampire girl named Aria. Smitten by her new crush, Ichika was later asked by Aria to do her a favor, take a forbidden vampire killing sword and plunge it deep into the bloodsucker's heart. Obviously taken aback by this request, Ichika refused to kill her first love, and was bemused by Aria's nonchalant attitude. Not willing to give up on her only method of dying, Aria then moved into Ichika's home hoping to eventually win her over. And throughout their wacky cohabitation, Ichika meets a smorgasbord of vampire folk. Who are these weirdos? Why are they in service to Aria? Why does Aria wish to bite the dust? And most importantly, will Aria and Ichika become the new Edward and Bella? So this is actually one of my all-time favorite manga, believe it or not. The story is quite interesting. The tone is hilarious and suspenseful, and the characters are such lovable goofballs. It is also my expert opinion that an anime of this series would be fucking fantastic. The epic scope and pacing of Vampeerz translates very well to a TV experience. In just 12 episodes, you can definitely set up the main cast, and probably even get up to chapter 30 without the first encounter with Geeka. Ending the anime with that arc would be absolutely perfect, although they will have to shave off a few chapters to get there. Since the manga did end pretty recently, the timing would be ideal, and just the wide appeal of this series is what makes me believe it stands a good chance of becoming an anime. It's got action, comedy, romance, and the occasional nip slips, which means you can have a censored version for television and an uncensored one for Blu-ray. I would be shocked if it didn't receive an anime at some point. But speaking personally for a moment, this is one of my most desired manga-to-anime adaptations, so at least grant me this one favor, you hacks. Number 4. Breasts are my favorite things in the world. This horny teenager's fantasy manga is about a girl named Ichihara Chiyaki, who despite her maturing cool appearance, has only thoughts about one thing and one thing only. Her head is filled with nothing but boobs. Admiring boobs, touching boobs, tasting boobs, and the one person to tend to Chiaki's salacious desires is the bodacious beauty Harumi Hana. Being her breast buddy, Hana willingly allows Chiaki to get her fill of her mighty melons. But as their purely physical relationship continues, the two girls start to become aware of certain feelings that would make this relationship have some strings attached to it. So I want to point out that I did make a full video about this manga, and how a potential anime of it would probably work. So if you want a detailed breakdown, you can check out that video by clicking on the little icon on the top right. The reason I'm bringing it up again here is because I really want to hammer home how important this is. It has all the factors needed for an anime. It's another rom-com, it's just lewd enough to meet the tight-watch standards of most streaming services, it appeals to normies, perverts, and Yuri fans, and most importantly, it's the last big Wakame Kombu series to receive an anime. For most Yuri fans, it's only a matter of when and not if this eventually happens, but I still feel like we need to give it an extra push just in case. And most important of all, we need to make sure that they take this project f***ing seriously. The last thing I want is for some studio to half-ass this, and make it some embarrassing abomination to find on Adult Swim at 3 AM. But given the pattern so far, it's very likely that Silver Link will be in charge of making a Sekai Oppai anime. And if that does end up being the case, then a very heavy burden will be put on their shoulders, even heavier than all the boobs that grace this fantastic manga. Number 3. My girlfriend is not here today. Oh boy. So this totally vanilla series is about a girl named Asahina Yuni, who enjoys venting online anonymously about her girlfriend Natsume Nanase, about how she divides her attention between her and things like volleyball practice. One day while waiting for her girlfriend to show up, Yuni was randomly approached by her classmate, the wicked temptress Taki Fuko, who revealed that she knows all about Yuni's alt account. She then suggested that she ditch her girlfriend and go on a date together. And feeling lonely and somewhat dejected, Yuni finally agreed. Despite being dedicated to Nanase, Yuni admits that the time she spent with Fuko was enjoyable. And from then on, we follow the tightrope that Yuni must walk between being faithful to her girlfriend and resisting the constant advances from her Jezebel admirer. Now this is definitely a Yuri series that stands out amongst the crowd, and not because it's extremely high quality. But I will say that a manga about cheating can possibly be good, or at least interesting. It's just that you have to try pretty hard to do so. For the record, I don't think Kyo Kano is necessarily terrible. The characters are somewhat shallow, but in a weird sort of way, I can see the characters emulating real-world temptations of humans. You also cannot deny the phenomenal art style and character designs. It kinda makes me want to commit extra-relational affairs. By the way, I'm totally free, ladies. Regardless, the first thing I thought of when deciding whether or not this could receive an anime is that if Netsuzo Trap could get one, then why not Kyo Kano? Both have around the same level of lewdness. But Kyo Kano probably has a better story, and definitely some smarter characters too. My concern is that an anime will most likely be given the same treatment as NTR, given its rather sleazy nature. Basically low production value and limited content. Anyway, I can't say one way or another if it'll get animated at some point. However, if it does happen, the chances that it'll end up being a quality anime is less likely than finding an Asian guy at a ginger festival. Number 2. I don't know which is love. A Yuri rom-com series about a college girl named Soriiki Mei, who was left with a broken heart after learning that her love from high school was already in a relationship. Not wanting to waste any more time, Mei enrolled in an all-girls university for the express intention of finding a girlfriend in order to move on from her lost love. But inexplicably, a bevy of hot girls started gravitating towards her, such as the bodacious but innocent Riri, the elegantly sly Miss Maria, the charming and handsome Minato, the playfully forward Karin, and the rough but surprisingly mature Karu. After meeting and falling in love with all 5 of them, Mei came to a near impossible decision. And that is which of them will she love. This is one of my personal favorites, partly due to the fact that almost every single aspect of the manga turns me into a giggling mess. Every character brings their own fun factor to the table, and it's all wrapped up neatly in Tamamushi's unmistakable brand of horniness. This series deserves to be animated just for the sole fact that it's a Yuri harem series. I mean, there's no fucking end to heterosexual harem anime, so how about tossing us some breadcrumbs, huh? The only proper Yuri harem anime I can think of is My Next Life as a Villainess, but even still, it's a bisexual harem anime.
God f***ing damn it!
If there's any Yuri harem manga that deserves to see the light of animation, it'd be this one. And apparently they had some kind of recording session of chapter 1 at Katakawa in 2022, which featured certain anime voice actors for the characters. So maybe this is a precursor to the actual main event. Regardless, I still think this has a decent shot of getting an anime. You don't need any crazy animation style or massive budget for this. Just a talented cast that can jive well together. The thing that'll really sell this anime is how passionate those gay panic voice recordings are. Number 1. Murcielago. Time to bring the pain. So this family-friendly manga focuses on two extremely dangerous assassins, Gomori Kuriko and Tozakura Hinako, who have been tasked by the police to rid the city of all evildoers, including terrorists and mass murderers. Kuriko, being an ex-serial killer herself, was given the opportunity to atone for her sins by working for the state and sending bad guys to an early grave. Psychotic to an incomprehensible degree, Kuriko would eliminate her enemies with frightening efficiency, armed with her trusty desert eagles and her deviously criminal mind. But aside having to complete near impossible tasks, Kuriko would always make time for her favorite hobby, sexing up any cute and sexy girl she comes across. But her trusty partner Hinako may in fact be the more terrifying of the two. An extremely bubbly 13-year-old enigma, she helps Kuriko in various ways, including tracking, protection, and escorting. She also has an inexplicable knack handling vehicles, and is not above getting her hands dirty if you make her see blood. The moral of the story is avoid being on their hit list at all costs. If you want a visual definition of over-the-top power fantasy, this will be it. But unlike most power fantasy fanfictions, this one is at least clever and extremely entertaining. If I'm not mistaken, Murcielago is the longest currently running Yuri manga in existence, and given its notorious reputation, it's no surprise people are clamoring for it to be animated. I can make an entire video about this, but I'll try to briefly hit on the main points. So there are things working with a potential anime, and things working against it. The things that make a Murcielago anime difficult is the fact that there has to be a production company willing to take such a high risk in making something so blatantly violent and sexual. And unfortunately, this is made even more difficult due to the fact that it's Yuri. It's a hard pill to swallow, but Yuri anime, especially in the highly sexualized category, is an extremely rare breed, mainly because it's still viewed as a big taboo in parts of Japan. And I'm willing to bet that the producers of Gushing Over Magical Girls were taking a big gamble too, and decided to cheap out on the production just so they wouldn't take a massive loss. But luckily for them, their gamble paid off, and perverts from all over the world tuned in and bought a shit ton of Blu-rays.
We're not just doing this for money. We're doing it for a shitload of money!
Now the things that support a potential Murcielago anime are as follows. Apparently a motion comic of the first 2 chapters was made in 2015. It was professionally done and voiced by industry veterans too. So this is basically the closest thing we got to a Murcielago anime. And it can also serve as a good launchpad for one. Another ray of hope is once again the recent success of lewd Yuri anime like Gushing Over Magical Girls, and to a lesser extent Vexations of a Vampire Princess. This also indicates that there are people out there starved for mature Yuri anime. You just gotta convince these tightwad industry execs to get these shows off the ground. Now if an anime studio does decide to take on this Herculean challenge, they better damn well know what the hell they're doing. These ain't no pussy-ass action scenes you're animating. This is the big leagues of crazy balls to the wall, blood-bathing, cheek-slapping, motherfucking clam-slamming festivals of fuckery. This would call for the likes of Mappa, Trigger, or Studio Bones. And just like Vampeerz, the structuring of the chapters is perfect for translating into a season of anime. Give or take, you can basically animate the first 4 volumes of the manga, ending it with a virginal Rose arc, because obviously we need to show that crazy part of the series. Unfortunately, I'm completely in the dark if a Murcielago anime is due to happen at some point. The fact that it's been so long since the manga debuted is also a bad sign. But who knows, there has to be some crazy son of a bitch out there who wants to make this an anime, and I'm absolutely sure that there are legions of Yuri fans who are tired of being blue-balled. So rise up, all you perverts. It's high time we reveal ourselves to the world. Well, I'm spent. So there's my honest opinion on the state of these Yuri manga. Obviously, there's no certainty to my words, but I will happily take credit if any of these happen to receive anime down the road. So comment below with your thoughts, and let me know if you want me to make another video going over more Yuri manga with anime likelihoods. Like I said in the intro, we're certainly getting more Yuri anime adaptations, but we also need to focus on the quality of those anime, and which ones are more deserving of adapting than others. To me, it doesn't matter how many Yuri manga you adapt. If they end up being pathetic excuses of their former selves, they are just shedding all over a beloved foundation. And no one likes seeing shit, or the shit taker. It's very shitty. Alright, that's it. See you around.